Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack!
Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to about 171 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. We're shuffling things up a bit this month, so I, as Mike might say it, Gabriel, will be hosting tonight's game. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker, owner of Southsider Studios, and our usual host, Mike. In my club, I will splash the pot whenever the fuck I please. Keeler.
Because it is my name, because I cannot have another in my life.
Second, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Andrew. I need a blowjob from Christy Turlington Zoomwald.
I mean, sure. My quote though, but I mean, wow. I'm a little flushed. My quote is, whoever answered that the worst thing that can happen in sports is getting fourth place in the Olympics. Seriously? Fuck you.
Yes. Third, writer, actor, and director, Kyle. I flop the nut straight. Fine.
Oh, thank you very much. This age, I'm flopping the nuts a little to the left, hanging a little bit low. I have what is known as the droop, which is low enough to take the low, but big enough to take the high.
Nice. And last but not least, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom. Don't break the law when you're breaking the law, Haggis.
Victim of circumstance.
Yes. All right. So in this episode, we go all in on two high-stakes dramas about underground poker games. Let's poke the monkey and reveal which films we're dealing up tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, ex-con card sharks and high-stakes hustlers, welcome to the main event. Tonight, two poker-centric pictures push their chips all in for the win. Will rounders splash the cash? Or is Molly's game the best in town? In the first quarter, from 1998, written by David Levine and Brian Koppelman, directed by John Dahl, starring Gretchen Mol, Edward Norton, and Matt Damon. In the second quarter, from 2017, written by Aaron Sorkin and Molly Bloom. Directed by Aaron Sorkin. Starring Kevin Costner, Idris Elba, and Jessica Chastain. Molly's Game.
All right, listeners, before we get into the show, I just want to mention that we've got a little bit of a side game going here. We did this, I believe, last month as well. The panelists made predictions on which movie would win the show tonight and what the spread would be, basically. So keep in mind that we are kind of taking bets on who's going to win the show and by how much tonight. So we'll announce that later in the show after our panelists have a chance to speak. And I also, every time that we say Cinesmacketeers, I always think of Mouseketeers. And I had a thought the other day that maybe we could, start some merchandising for the show, and maybe we could, provide some hats that instead of mouse ears are like film reels on top of our heads, and maybe they could even have a little bit of film that goes in between them. So if anybody's interested in some CineSmack merch and you want us to start developing these Smacketeers hats, just drop us a line and let us know, and we'll look into it. We'll see what we can do.
Merchandising.
Yeah. I think we need to monetize this thing, guys. Come on.
CineSmack the flamethrower. The kids
Right.
love this one.
Yeah, it depends. We could do it on a per movie basis too. We could do our own CineSmack, poker chips or something like that, because I know that there would be high demand for something like that.
Right.
So,
Right. Very high demand.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do like a CineSmack cameo where I will come for $30. I'll come slap you while you watch a movie.
Yeah,
sounds like a
maybe
fun
each of us
award.
could have our own thing, and we could each go and watch movies with our fans.
Someone can deliver smack to your house, like drugs.
Right. Exactly.
I thought we were
like where this is going.
I thought we were trying to get funded.
Well, that's
one way
you
to
know,
get
funded.
But drugs are very popular in America.
Just ask Elon Musk.
Okay.
Anyway,
Topical.
let's not get too political on that. Sorry. So if you guys have any, merchandising ideas for us, just drop us a line and we'll look into it.
Any of you shady TikTok drop shippers who want to make a quick buck at us.
Wow, we're doing drop shipping now. Wow.
I don't know. That's what kids are talking about.
Yeah, no,
On
that's
God.
That's no.
This has accelerated very quickly.
Yes.
Escalated.
Wow. All right.
All you got to do is 10x your money 3 times. You're a millionaire.
Do it.
Right.
Guys don't watch TikTok for financial advice. What's wrong with you?
I do now.
Okay, well, maybe we ought
not with that attitude.
Maybe we ought to get into the show.
Nah.
So the first category, writing, or as for this episode, I'd like to call Before the Flop. Andrew?
Before the flop.
Before the flop. Andrew, you have the dealer button. Please start this round.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about a little bit of writing. So rounders, David Levine and Brian Koopelman. Is that correct? Does anyone know? I don't want to mispronounce. As much as
Stop doing the pronouncing things. So
I know. I just feel bad, so I don't want to say it wrong. But all right, Brian.
You're gonna feel real bad when he comes on here in half an hour as our special guest.
I know, right? I'm gonna feel that when he comes in. That's
very embarrassing.
It's gonna be very awkward. Yeah, yeah. So Brian
Never mind,
Koopelman.
he just left.
Oh, well, I guess we don't have our special guest. My fault.
No, again.
I know.
170 episodes in a row. What the hell?
You know what? Somebody
You're really
else go.
slow playing the start of this.
I'm sorry. They started it. So we're going to talk. So Brian helped write Rounders along with David Levine. And I like to talk a little bit about maybe some other known things that they've done. Brian Koppelman has done Walking Tall, Ocean's 13, The Girlfriend Experience, Solitary Man. So he's got some interesting kind of genres all over the place with his writing, specifically away from Rounders. But he has worked quite a bit with David Levine, it looks like, because he has done similar movies. So it's kind of like they're a little pair. So that's kind of interesting. And then there's Aaron Sorkin, who has done a lot of dramas, a lot of true to life stories for Molly's Game, which I find very fascinating. He really got into with like Charlie Wilson's War, The Social Network, Moneyball, Steve Jobs, Trial of the Chicago 7. So they both of these writing groups have very similar, I would say, genres that they have picked up. So let's talk about Rounders. So the story is basically a traditional, what I would call a traditional poker movie. Now, it defined the generation of poker movies because there was nothing like it out there. There was nothing that had gone into a story of the way that people play poker, not just sitting at a table throwing cards and everyone knew it as poker. It made this magic into the world, this underbelly that perhaps some people didn't know about but did see, and they turned poker into this game of skill, into this game of math, into this game of there's more to just playing a game of cards. And I feel that the writing really brought out that story really, really well. The friend story feels very, at least to me, feels very from Mike McDermott and Worm just being very it's he's on the up. Mike is on the up and up. He's trying to be a better person, a better boyfriend, get a different life, and then here's his.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
Well, thank you. See, and Worm just out of jail, comes back in, starts in the old habits, starts bringing him down, and his life just starts unraveling and falling apart. Now, the silver lining, of course, is the story comes back into the, I would say, closer to the Hollywood ending of he realizes, hey, I actually still have a talent. I don't need this person. I found myself. So maybe that's the moral. But even to this day, I mean, you'll hear people talk about Rounders as being that quintessential poker movie that kind of started that genre. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Molly's Game, yes, is about poker, but is a little bit harder to ascertain directly what was real and what was made up. We've talked about this before. We've talked about how difficult it is to base on true story movies because you don't really know how much of it was extrapolated, how much of it was actually remembered, things like that. And we've discussed whether or not how well do we want to base the writing on whether it was true to life or not. The story I find to be very fascinating, the way that it's told. It's told in the sense of memories, and it feels very much like her telling the story as she remembers it while she's going through all these courtroom proceedings. And I don't know if the book is that way. I have not read the book, but I enjoyed the way that they divulge her whole process and what she went through while they're actually having her be in a different position and having to deal with the courts and all the crazy other stuff that's going on around her while she's trying to pick up the pieces of her life. I found that to be very fascinating. I have looked up some of the stuff about Molly's Game, and what Molly Bloom actually did with some of the poker games and things like that. And a lot of that is pretty accurate from what they show in the movie. Again, I don't know about the rest of the stuff because I haven't read the book, so that's bad on me, I guess. I don't know if anybody else has read it, but chime in, I guess, because I don't know. So good dialogue, witty, a lot of conversations feel very natural. They kind of interrupt, talk over each other, and it works instead of it being gibberish and kind of weird. Lots of narration in both of these movies from some really strong actors. We'll talk about that later. But the monologuing in these two movies is impeccable. And some of the greatest little blocks of dialogue come from these two movies. And they're so well written. So hard choice, but somebody take it away because I'm starting a monologue. And mine's not written.
No, it's Aaron Sorkin, and
Yeah.
I mean he, my daughter popped in and started watching it about a third of the way into it, and it got to the end, and she's in theater, and she's like, there were so many great monologues in that show, in that movie, and I said, well, yeah, all of Aaron Sorkin's stuff is like that. You could pop on The Newsroom or West Wing or Few Good Men. I mean, that's just what he does. He's one of the best media writers we have right now. I thought that I maybe because it's for like kind of lack of information. I mean, I dug into some of the stuff that actually happened and whatnot. And yes, there's some fudging in it, but it doesn't seem like any more than any other Hollywood adaptation of a true story. So I find that to be pretty forgivable because it could be a kind of a boring story. And I think they took a story that it would be very hard to generate sympathy for Molly. And Aaron Sorkin does a really great job. And of course, Jessica Chastain's acting helps with that as well. Rounders, on the other hand, was a movie that's been sitting on my shelf for 15 years, and I had never watched it. And I was like, oh, I gotta watch that. The other ones are Man on Fire. Haven't watched that yet. And I know, sorry. And I just have these movies that are just sitting there. Last Night in Soho. Haven't watched that. It's only been a couple years, but so I watched it and I was really excited about it. And I don't know. The story was so kind of paint by the numbers and felt very 1990s, a buddy adventure movie, and it not really adventure, but just kind of like, good guy, bad guy. And it seemed very, very kind of paint by numbers. And I was a little disappointed in that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard to vote against Aaron Sorkin in the writing category, no matter who you are. So,
Yeah.
Tom
He does just
agreed
kinda
with
make
me.
everything. Yeah.
I
Sorry,
didn't
man.
even have to
I'm a
try.
I'm a Sorkin fan. I love his stuff, and I think, I think it's just kind of a safe bet across the board. So
So there are three things in my life I consider I'm a late bloomer on. One is Goonies and Honey Mustard and Aaron Sorkin. Those are three things that I didn't like for most of my life, and then I tried them and was like, I love these things. Um, before the show started, we were talking about Wes Anderson and his style. There is nothing like Aaron Sorkin dialogue that makes you go, oh my God, Aaron Sorkin wrote this. So I assume if you like that, you love Molly's Game for that piece. Um, that being said, if that's not your cup of tea, it's going to turn you off because its fingerprints are all over the movie. Now, I'll give you a little color here. Rounders came out, I think, in 97, 99, maybe. I'm not sure. But
You just danced around it. 98.
98.
Maybe.
So I would have been 15 years old, which means I was in the throes of my degenerate gambling. At the time, I remember this intersection of time very clearly because most of the world was unaware of No Limit Texas Hold'em. People played cards with their parents. They played for nickels and dollars and dimes. We were 15. We knew about No Limit Texas Hold'em. We played for $400, $1,000 in a pot when we were 15, 16 years old. I lost $400 in one game of cards and one hand of cards when I was 17 years old. I'll never forget that. The movie, it says, very few poker players can remember hands they've won, but they can recall with stunning accuracy hands they've lost. I'll never forget losing $400 at 5 o'clock in the morning when I worked at Best Buy for $7.25 an hour. But we were degenerate gamblers. We would run to the ATM to take out money to pay people we owed. Like it's kind of crazy. But this movie is a insane intersection of the rise of No Limit Texas Hold'em and this movie capitalizing on that. And I think because of that, the story feels rushed and very flimsy. And it's like, hey, let's take advantage of this very hot thing that's going on right now. And I think the two fed each other very well. But yeah, it is a very kind of trite, rote, non-super interesting movie. It has very confusing moral arcs for the characters that they don't know who they should be betting on, who they shouldn't be betting on. And in the end, did he really actually learn any lesson? Did he actually lose anything from what he did? Because it seems like his ex-girlfriend is very interested in him again at the end. I think it's supposed to be a feel-good movie about understanding what your calling is in life. But when you are addicted to gambling, that's kind of a dangerous message to put out there. Definitely fueled us as teenagers into losing lots of money. I think the writing is very uneven, but I think the characters are fairly strong, serving the purpose they serve. Um, some of them are just straight up cautionary tales, and they're almost like paint by numbers morality characters, like Kanish being like the straight laced, play things tight, you can make a living doing this, you're smart, etc. And Worm being the scumbag who's always looking for an edge and cheating and then cutting and running. And Mike is a very poorly written kind of character about how he chooses what's important to him, kind of dancing around all those things and wants his cake and to eat it too. So I think it's kind of sloppy, but the poker scenes and the things dealing with poker are super interesting. And they're explained enough to an audience that is probably unfamiliar with No Limit Texas Hold'em, but also they're clever enough so that me, as someone who has years and years of experience with it, can kind of see the things coming, and I don't feel like talked down to, which I like. Molly's Game, Aaron Sorkin has the ability to turn something that could be very mundane into something very interesting. Um, Molly's Game reminded me a lot of Moneyball. And I think the characterization, the dialogue given to the characters, the way the story is told is really well put together. For a movie that could very much be boring, it is tense and keeps moving. It has momentum. It's interesting. I think a lot of that is buoyed by the strong performances by the leads. I think great casting in this movie, excellent delivery. He got the best out of a lot of these actors. That being said, I think this movie is also messy from a moral standpoint and what it's trying to say, because Molly Bloom makes a lot of decisions that seem contradictory at times. She wants to be very stand up and honest at the end, but she's willing to take a cut when she panics. And they kind of, or a rake when she panics, right? Which basically makes her game illegal. They take a lot of liberties with making her seem like the good person in this uh, situation, sort of towards the end, although she was facilitating, gambling addiction, people losing their marriages, and et cetera, et cetera. She does kind of try to protect that at the end and admit it. But, it's very murky. So I think it gets lost in the weeds there. It's at its best when it's telling the story in a fast pace of like what happens going forward, from beat to beat to beat as she's explaining it. And the stuff with her dad is very much shoehorned in. I didn't care for that very much. I don't know. There's like 10 seconds left. Go, Mike, go.
Check.
You're on.
No, I was checking to Gabe.
Oh, check's good.
Oh, you're checking.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Check.
Oh,
No, I
yes,
can't.
I'm all on board with the gambling.
I
cliches,
can't
but
add anything really. The only thing that stood out to me was Joe, the girlfriend in Rounders, does not stand up to the Bechdel test. Like she was just so one dimensional, and I just felt like she was thrown in there.
Hold on, I'm pretty sure she
There-
talks to a woman about a law case
Yeah, I guess they're in that
for a
classroom,
split
isn't
second.
it? Yeah,
For
for
a
like
split second.
yeah. Otherwise, fails it.
No, she's a bad
Everything you
character.
guys have said, I agree with, except I really did enjoy the father stuff in Molly's
I
Game.
did too.
I like, and the way, the way Sorkin writes dialogue, I love it. And we'll go into the directing side with the edit, but yeah, I like that fast back and forth that he does.
Yeah.
That's it. Check.
The only thing that I will add to that is Matt Damon has this. I guess he has a similar kind of style to some of his other movies, where he's very smart, and he has kind of the same personifications and the same kind of character motes that
Right.
I would say
Yeah.
come from those other movies. I'm not saying that Matt Damon is a one-trick pony. We'll talk about him in acting, but I don't
Well,
know
no,
if
he
that's
did
just part of the
The Great
writing.
Wall.
Huh?
He did the Great Wall. He's multidimensional.
I just
It did.
I meant I just meant I just more meant that the writing for it seemed very like they
Yeah.
wrote it specifically for a character
Yes.
instead of.
I would agree. He seems like Goodwill Hunting, the poker player.
Yes, you
Yeah.
you picked up on what I was throwing.
Absolutely. That's what it felt like.
I was splashing that pot. I'm glad you decided to take that bet.
Don't splash the pot.
So, yes, it felt good, like Goodwill Hunting poker player. So,
All right, gentlemen, do you have any other input before we get to voting?
Nope.
All right, let's place our bets. Let's go with let's start with Andrew.
I'm all in on Molly's game.
Hey, Mike.
I'll see her all in on Molly's game.
All right. The pot is getting big for Molly's game. So Tom.
Yep, Molly's game. Check to the razor.
Nice. Okay, Kyle.
Runner. That's 4 cards in a row for Molly's game.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So Brian Koppelman decided to write a poker film about after losing $750 in an underground New York poker game in 1995. Also, writers David Levian and Brian Koppelman have cameos in the Atlantic City poker scene. They're two of the players used to illustrate giveaway tells. Koppelman can be seen at the Atlantic City poker table smoking a cigarette, just as Matt Damon is describing smoking as a tell. When asked about using jargon in his writing of Molly's game, Aaron Sorkin replied, "I'm crazy about it because I like language. What we're talking about is language that most people are unfamiliar with, but it's also the easiest way to indicate that someone is an expert at something. Oftentimes, it's not important to me that an audience is understanding what a character is saying, just that the character understands what they are saying." If that makes sense. I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. And I felt that way. I personally felt that way through both of these movies. You know, I'm not a, you know, I didn't go through the same poker phase that Kyle did. And at times I felt like a lot of the jargon was a little bit over my head and I didn't understand exactly what was going on, but it didn't really matter because I still understood what the story was and how it was proceeding. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, guys, are you ready for the flop? The next round, acting?
My zipper is down. Let's go.
Let's go. Mike, let's burn and turn and start this round.
All right. Let's start it off with rounders. Matt Damon, it's great to see him in a movie where America's not spending a bunch of money to save him. It is also kind of typecasting where Andrew actually said, you know, smart guy. There's a lot of parallels with Goodwill Hunting there a little bit. And I want to talk about the giant bear in the room, a giant teddy bear in the room, John Malkovich. He had to have been on set, 2 days? They had to have shot with him maybe 2 days because he is only ever in the scenes inside the gambling hall, right? So maybe 2 days, but he just chews the scenery, like literally, because he's also eating his Oreos. But man, I love John Malkovich. And I don't want to take any trivia from you, Gabe, so I won't talk about one thing that I read. We talked about Gretchen Mol, who played Jo. She's just in there to give the girlfriends that went with their boyfriends to see a movie about gambling, someone to talk. John Turturro, not really John Turturro-esque, but it's still John Turturro, and I'll take it when I can get it. Ed Norton. Boy, Ed Norton. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about him in this. I like how he played the character, and I feel like maybe he was there for about half of the filming. Like, I can't help it. I can't turn my brain off when I'm watching these movies because I'm just thinking, okay, how'd they shoot this? How long did it take them with this actor? I just start breaking stuff down in my head. Um, I did like some of the chemistry between him and Matt Damon, but I just felt at times where Ed Norton was running circles around Matt Damon because Matt Damon's stuck in playing our good guy. Like, we're supposed to be rooting for him, right? So Ed Norton gets to have all this fun as Worm, and I did like how he delivered his smart ass comments. I thought it fit really well. And Martin Landau, what, one day they had one day with him? They're like, okay, we're going to shoot this scene with all the judges, and then we're going to shoot the scene. Oh no, they maybe had 2 days because there was also him in the courtroom. So maybe 2 days with him too. Uh, I like Martin Landau. I think he brings, he's one of the gets for this movie. Like, independent feature. Of course, this was a Miramax film. You got to get me someone with good name recognition. Someone that will pull in some of the older crowd. Well, Martin Landau's in it. Oh, great. Okay, let's bring in Landau. And he was kind of going through kind of a renaissance in this time frame, wasn't he? Because he was in a couple Burton movies. Was it Tim Burton movies, or am I getting that mixed up with something else? But I felt like the late '90s, the mid '90s, Martin Landau kind of came back in force. That could be me.
Are you thinking of the movie Ready to Rumble with David Arquette?
No.
Oh,
Was he in
Martin
that?
Landau's in that.
Similar.
I totally
Similar.
remembered.
Those are similar. Yeah.
He plays Sal Bandini. Want to wrestle?
That's right. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Molly's Game. Jessica Chastain is fantastic. I think she delivers. She makes this character her own, and I really like the character. I can't help it. Idris Elba, I'll watch him in anything. I think he's fantastic. I've always liked him. Kevin Costner showing up as the dad. I wanted more of the dad stuff, but I understand the movie's already 2 hours, 20 minutes. But the scene towards the end when they're sitting on the park bench was great. I thought it was absolutely great. Michael Cera playing Player X, also allegedly Tobey Maguire has been rumored as Player X. He is an absolute dick. Kyle last night was telling me about it. And he's like, he's an absolute dick, and I'm like, yeah. After watching it, yeah, he's a total prick. Chris O'Dowd, seeing him in here now. I know him from The Bear. All right, I love the show The Bear, and seeing him in this as just this drunk that rambles on much like I am was fantastic. Seeing Graham Greene as Judge Foxman, I mean, he goes back even with Costner. He was in Dances with Wolves. He was the chief in Dances with Wolves. But I loved Jessica Chastain in this role, and I think she was fantastic. And her and Idris Elba had a great how should I say it?
Chemistry?
Well, I want to say
Yeah.
chemistry, but they, I think was even
Rapport?
more like, yeah, like they just performed off each other. Like, it was great. One would bring it up a little bit, and the other one would try and try and push a little bit more. They were great together. And once again, I think it's hard to not act well with something written by Sorkin. And I'm done.
Yeah, I think Jessica Chastain might have gotten an award nomination for this. Was she nominated for an Oscar for Molly's Game? I feel like she might have. No, she wasn't. That's surprising. I thought she was a powerhouse. I thought she delivered the lines great. I mean, yeah, the acting in Molly's Game is pretty spot on. Oh, what you mentioned the Graham Greene character. Do you think this is part of the Dances with Wolves cinematic universe?
I
Like, is
think it
this
is.
maybe it's part of the multiverse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
yeah, we should have had a scene where he's like a court-appointed psychiatrist, and then they could have interacted more. That'd have been fun. Have like a buffalo run through the courtroom. Idris Elba's great. You know, when I thought about Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba, you're telling me about their rapport. There's a lot of rumors about Idris Elba being Bond. Put him as Bond and make Jessica Chastain the Bond girl. Be great. Perfect.
Oh,
They'd be
yeah.
awesome together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I'm in
acting
on
is
that.
great. Delivering the dialogue that Aaron Sorkin writes is probably difficult. It's very specific. It's very fast. It's very articulate and exacting. So I think from that point of view, they nailed it. There is a killer's row of actors in Molly's Game. Even some of the guys that are in the background. The guy who, like we mentioned, Chris O'Dowd, he plays a great character. You know, he's not in the movie much. The guy who played Bad Brad, you know, I don't even know that guy's name, but what a lovable loser who happens to be running a Ponzi scheme, you know, and has his own game going on the side. And then yeah, just great acting choices, great performances, very engaging, kept the story moving, never was boring. I thought you got great performances out of all of them. Like there were great performances taken out of, you know, the best of it is on the screen. And the narration helps move the story along. I think it's much more tolerable in a movie like this because it is explanatory but also interesting and ties into the action that's going on. So it's not just sitting pensively and having a voiceover. You know, you're kind of seeing and telling at the same time. It's a mixture of the two. Rounders falls into the telling a little bit, but I think it also does a pretty good job of explaining through narration what's going on, because a lot of those thoughts are what would be considered like privileged or private information in a card player's head. So having them say them out loud wouldn't make any sense. But there's enough business and blocking going on that it doesn't feel as bad. It gets bad when he's sitting alone in the truck or he's sitting alone in the apartment and you're doing voice, you know, you're doing narration. Then it feels a little ham-fisted. But the acting is also really good in it. I think Gretchen Mull is a fantastic actress. I think she's criminally underused and under characterized in this movie. She really is a prop. A lot of the ancillary people around the edges are very forgettable. Martin Landau, I think, gives a good performance. Matt Damon and Ed Norton are fantastic actors. Ed Norton just, I mean, he has chops. He's such a good actor and plays such a good scumbag. The guy who played Grandma seemed menacing, but he also reminded me of one of the little bullies from A Christmas Story.
I thought the same thing.
With
I'm
his
so
like
glad.
pork pie hat and he's tiny and he's wearing
Yes.
like gloves. Like like Scott Fergus or whatever his name, like his little toady. That's who he
Fergus's
reminded me
little
of.
brother or whatever
Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
Farkas. It's a
Or Farkas. There
the
you go.
Farkas guy.
Reminded me of him. John Malkovich. He is firmly in the Nick Cage school of acting for me. He's either very good or insane, and I can't tell the difference, and I don't know that we'll ever know. Teddy KGB is an interesting character, but boy, does he feel kind of out of place in this movie, giving his overwrought characterization.
I love
And
it.
then I feel
it.
like, yeah, I mean, it's entertaining. I feel like John Turturro is trying to counterbalance him by sitting on the other side of the scale, not moving his face while he delivers lines. He's like, all right, John Malkovich is going to do this. I'm never going to move my eyes or smile or make any facial features at all. But the acting is still very good. There's just not as much for them to do as there is in Molly's Game. They're given these huge long monologues that are brilliantly crafted and expertly like delivered. I think Rounders is very competent and the acting is very good, and you can see the skill of these actors in the film, but they just don't have as much to work with, which isn't necessarily their fault. I just think they do a good job at getting it across. But Molly's Game has some I think special performances. I think Jessica Chastain is absolutely fantastic in it.
You were pointing out other like random actors in Molly's game. Joe Keery from most people would probably know him from Stranger Things, but he was in Free Guy, I believe. Right?
And that was not Free Guy.
Yeah, Free Guy.
Was it Free Guy? Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
I
Free
don't
Guy.
even. Yeah.
And,
I was surprised to see him and noticed how he hasn't really aged.
Yeah.
He looks
He's not
exactly
going-
the
he's not
same.
going to.
He's not. Yeah.
Yeah. He looks exactly the same.
And Edward Norton, I mean, the first time I guess that I saw him actually act, to where I'm like, holy crap, this guy's is going to be even more amazing than he is right now, and was Primal Fear, because he is phenomenal in Primal Fear. And just seeing kind of their interaction and how they play off of each other, yes, it is very, as I think we said, storybook, pigeonholed, traditional paint by numbers. I still feel that the acting of between the two of them had very good, like they played off of each other really well, and they at least portrayed a believable, like, boy friendship that had been going for years and growing up in elementary school and stuff. And they gave a shit about each other even though they were on different paths. And I think that still showed through, and I think you can say that it attests to the actors. And I agree with pretty much everything you've said with Molly's game, because yeah.
So sorry, I want to jump in. There's like 60 seconds left, and so
that's why I quit.
I think good. I appreciate it. Martin Landau actually won an Oscar for Ed Wood like a few years before this. So he kind of kicking ass again. It was a second Oscar. I think all due respect, John Malkovich, he is amazing. And I love this period of late 90s, early 2000s when he was just having fun. A Con Air and this, and being John Malkovich, and just having an absolute ball and taking roles that were fun, where he got to do fun voices and say stupid stuff. And I thought it was just absolutely great. I don't feel like acting wise, this is a particularly like heavy role for him. I mean, it's a little comical and a little bit over the top, but that's kind of what it calls for. I don't know. I guess I didn't think he was as menacing as I thought he would be. And then as far as Molly's game, I think, like you guys said, all of the supporting characters are absolutely great. The Kevin Costner stuff is spot on. And I mean, it's kind of why he's kind of one of the best actors that we had in the last 40 years. And it would have been very easy for that role to fall into, a cynical and, a angry dad, but that turn where he just comes across as, caring, and then the whole story, you get to this like huge bigger picture of their relationship on that park bench. It's such a good scene, and Aaron Sorkin gets credit for writing it, but Kevin Costner does an amazing job delivering that scene and just kind of selling the regret and the sadness, and it's just incredible.
And I would say with that scene specifically, how it starts and how it ends is not the way it's portrayed when they first sit down on that bench, because your assumption based on everything else and their entire relationship and everything she said and talked about, and how it starts with their talk, and he basically is like, no, you sit the fuck down and listen to me. You think that's going a different way, and it gets completely twisted, and it becomes this moment of change in both of their lives. And I think that's writing and acting a testament there.
And what it's really cool, and again, kind of back to the writing, but the Molly demonstrates over and over again throughout the entire movie that she has integrity, and that is the most important thing to her.
Yep.
And it's just kind of an afterthought. You don't really think about it, but then you get to the park bench scene and you're like, well, if, of course she would get it from her parents. And for her dad to, come clean and, apologize for that and for everything that he did to their family. You suddenly see what characteristics she got from him.
Yep.
As much as daughters hate that, it happens.
It's so weird how well that it's written to real life in a sense then.
Yeah.
And we don't.
I talk like an Aaron Sorkin movie all the time. Not during the podcast. Never in the podcast.
You monologue at breakfast.
Well, I don't do it in front of my family either. I save it for fast food windows and the grocery store. That's
perfect.
Perfect.
I'm sure the fast food employees really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dude,
oh my God.
Order some fucking fries and go.
Here's a funny story. My dad was at a restaurant, and the waiter or waitress asked him like if he wanted more of something, and he says, "I think not." And she was like she was flabbergasted. She was like, "Are you an actor?" I was like, "What?" all he did was say, "I think not." She thought that was just like Shakespearean in some way or another. I just thought that was
the
funny.
English
That's
language.
great.
That's Tom. That's
Are you
Tom
a
when he
time
goes to the
traveler?
drive-through window.
Time traveler.
Would you like some extra sauce? I think not.
I think
Oh my
not.
God. Are you Aaron Sorkin?
Sauce, perchance to gain weight.
All right, gentlemen, any other thoughts on this round?
Nope.
No, the
Okay.
pit boss is going to take us away. We've waited too long.
Right. Yeah. Let's vote on this round. Let's start with Mike.
Molly's Game.
And then Tom?
You're muted, Tom.
Can't hear you, Tom. With all your Sorkian dialogue, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was conferring with Danny. We're on Molly's Game.
We missed an amazing monologue there on stream, and that's unfortunate.
I'm sure we did.
Tom, are you the impetus behind the "Sir, this is a Wendy's" meme? Like delivering a Sorkin monologue.
I gotta get to work.
Sir, we close in 10 minutes.
Okay, Kyle.
I'm gonna do Tom's job for him. I liked the acting of Ed Norton and Matt Damon and Teddy KGB's unhinged bullshit, so I'm gonna go 4 rounders.
Okay.
Danny, we're good.
All right, bruv.
And Mike.
In July.
I already voted.
You did?
Yes.
When did you vote?
I voted for Molly's Game.
Oh, okay.
At
You
the
asked me
beginning,
first.
it was his
I asked you
round.
first. I'm sorry, I got back. Sorry, I was looking at my list. Didn't get back to Andrew. You're Andrew. Sorry, gentlemen.
I'm going to raise the Molly's Game.
Okay. Well, I'm tallying the votes here. Oops, dang it. Okay. All right, gentlemen. So Edward Norton's character, Worm, was originally supposed to smoke, but being an avid non-smoker, Norton refused. And this is kind of added by me. I don't know if this is actually trivia, but I felt like that might explain the toothpick thing for his character. He replaced one oral fixation with another in the movie.
Good choice.
You want me to smoke?
It'd be weird if he just sucked dick the whole movie.
It would.
Sorry, you walked me into that one.
Yeah,
Ed
sorry.
Norton's that good of an actor, though. He could act around a blowjob.
That's why he kept disappearing. He's like, I got certain needs.
They didn't show that part when he was in prison.
Yeah, I got certain needs. He disappears to a glory hole.
Now,
And
you
who
guys,
knows?
so
We-
hold on. It's fine. Let me finish it.
Oh Lord.
Great movie.
Andrew. I won't go there. Maybe that's what he did when he disappeared when they went. You remember they went to the
Yeah.
casino and then he
Yeah.
who
Yeah, I
knows?
just
He
said this.
assumed it was
Gabe,
he
are
had
you having
time
a
with
stroke?
a female prostitute, but who knows? We don't know that. We don't know what happened.
God,
in
someone
that
check
scene.
on Gabe.
We don't know. And then Molly Bloom told Aaron Sorkin that she wanted Jessica Chastain to play her in the movie. And then Jessica Chastain said she was in regular contact with the real Molly Bloom, saying, while I was on set, I had a constant communication where I could text her. So they
Wow.
communicated with each other, and she got, input from the real Molly Bloom,
Yeah.
which
Can-
maybe helped improve, the authenticity of her performance. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Mike?
Can I share my little bit that I had read real quick?
Yeah, I was going to tell you that you could have, because
Okay.
it didn't sound like it was any of my trivia.
Matt Damon said in an interview that getting John Malkovich was a big deal for the film. So much so that on the first take, John Malkovich did a very cartoonish and over-the-top performance, at the end of which the whole crew applauded and praised him for how brilliant it was. At which point, Matt Damon looked at John Malkovich very confused. John Malkovich, seeing him looking confused, leaned over, said, quote, "I'm a terrible actor," end quote. Matt Damon said John Malkovich was trying to show him that if you get to that point where no one gives you a straight answer, it's dangerous.
Yeah,
So
and
no
I read
one
that
wanted
part.
to tell him that it
Yeah.
was bad.
I read that piece too, and I do wonder, what do you guys think of like his Russian accent and his performance?
it's
He's
bad.
fun to watch. He's fun to watch, but is it really actually a good performance? It's good because it entertained us and it didn't matter
entertaining.
too much.
It's entertaining.
It's very
That's
entertaining.
what you
Yeah.
get out of it. It
I
is
used
not.
to think
I don't think it's accurate.
no, I used to think it was the worst Russian accent in a movie until I saw Craven, and watching
You saw that movie?
in the theater
Oh my god!
in Chicago. I paid $20 for a ticket per
my
seat.
God.
Yikes.
We just have to
and,
find the other three that saw it.
there were literally, I think, 4 people in the audience, and it was a diner recline, and the person 2 seats down from me got an entire bowl of fettuccine Alfredo and ate it during the movie. It was interesting. But the worst Russian accent I've ever heard is Russell Crowe's in that movie. It is god awful.
I don't think he's well known for that, doing accents.
No, he's mostly well known for being bloated.
Yes, I assume so. Okay, gentlemen, I think we're ready for our next round, what I call the turn or directing. Tom, now that we're at the turn, please place your bet.
All right. So, like I'm often do, I kind of look at some of the other work that these guys have done, and there's not a whole lot to look at. This was Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut, and John Dahl, his work is really kind of limited television with a kind of a couple spattering of easily forgotten movies. So then after I do that, I look at their names and see which one's easier to pronounce. We got kind of a tie there. And then third step, I actually look at the movies and the directing work that they did inside them. So let's do that. Both of them, I think, were very serviceable. Rounders, really, there wasn't a whole lot of, I don't know, kind of, interesting or eye-catching directorial decisions, which sometimes when you're the director, that's what you want. You want to just kind of stay out of the way and not call too much attention to yourself. And obviously John Dahl being a TV director primarily that's something that you're gonna see from him. Molly's Game, on the other hand, it's interesting because we get to credit Aaron Sorkin for both like the story structure, and a lot of times when we have the writer and the director, we're kind of deciding like, well, is this kind of back and forth loopy timeline. Is this credited to the editor or the director or the writer? But we get to kind of credit Aaron because he did the directing and the writing, which is kind of convenient. And I thought it really works. Sometimes with these, jumpy timelines, it's a little difficult to, place everything, but that never happens once in all of Molly's Game. I do think it's interesting that Aaron Sorkin did the jump from writing to directing, and that this was the movie that he chose to do it with. But you can clearly tell that he learned a lot of, a lot of the basics and, the kind of the directorial vocabulary to tell an effective story and keep it interesting. At no point are the visuals become very boring or just there for the sake of being there, like they kind of do in Rounders. And when I heard Aaron Sorkin was going to be directing a movie, I was a little kind of like, really? Like, I mean, you are the best at what you do in writing. Why wouldn't you stay there? But I think he did a really great job. Again, nothing like John Dahl and Rounders, nothing that really jumped out and just like, oh, what a unique directorial choice this was. Aside from the timeline, and I think, that's, I mean, again, that's kind of what the director sometimes needs to do, is just tell the story. And when Aaron Sorkin gave you the script, that's one of the things you want to do. And I think the other thing that he did a really great job of kind of getting these performances out of these actors. I think, Molly Bloom and her father could very easily be unsympathetic characters, and you could just, mentally tell them to go to hell. But Jessica Chastain and Kevin Costner do a really great job, and I think some of that goes to Aaron Sorkin for getting those performances out of them. Again, they're very great actors. I mean, it's it's kind of easy to do a good job when you got the best tools in the business. But I think I think Aaron did a pretty good job.
Yeah, this is where I kind of wanted to talk about the editing of Molly's Game. Just I liked the idea, or sorry, I like the idea that they went with the flashbacks, telling everything very Tarantino-esque, right? But what I really enjoyed is the cutting between the actors for that rapid fire Aaron Sorkin dialogue, right? Sorkin is known for his walk and talks, right? West Wing was walk and talk central. Always someone was on there. They were walking, they were talking, they were going through, and he kind of made that a popular choice for a lot of TV shows and a lot of movies afterwards. But the rapid fire editing, I loved. And I don't know if that was the editor saying, hey, what if we did this? Or if that was Sorkin saying, okay, I want it cut really quick back and forth. That's what I want to say about Sorkin's work, because I agree with you, Tom. John Dahl's work with Rounders, I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere in Rounders is great. And it's probably because of the film stock, right? It's not necessarily, it wasn't shot on a digital camera, which Molly's Game was maybe shot on, or at least something close to that, super high def. You're talking 98. Well, it was shot in probably 97. So you're talking old film stock camera, and the atmosphere that it gives Rounders is great. And I really like that. I like the colors. I like the tones. I like all of that. The thing that I don't like, and I was talking with someone and I said, I hadn't watched it in years, like maybe 20 years. I haven't watched Rounders. And since then, I have either listened to or read some books about the Weinsteins, and they were known for going in and cutting movies themselves, right? Like that's how they started the Weinstein Company. They would bring in imports, they would cut the movies and edit themselves, of already made movies and then sell those movies to an American audience. And I feel like Rounders may have some fingerprints of the Weinsteins on it. There are shots in there that felt like they could have gone longer. There are takes where I feel like they zoomed in on the image. There are just things that make it feel a little rough. Where John Dahl was probably like, okay, the film's done, and the Weinstein took it, said, well, no, we got to cut a lot of this out. It's got to run for this certain amount of time. And that is just me thinking that. I have no evidence for that, none. But it just feels that way to me when I'm watching the movie now. But I do love the atmosphere.
I kind
Interesting. Oh, go ahead.
I kind of agree a little bit to that. There are scenes, especially like in the poker game, when Famke comes to his actually apartment and they have the discussion about him paying back and him finding about the credit that he didn't know about. There are those scenes, and they're like really dark, and it feels like they're underexposed. They're not quite set right. They feel weird, and I don't know what that is, because it doesn't feel like anybody would do that on purpose.
I don't know. I kind of like that though. Bringing up when she comes up to the apartment, I
Yep.
like the look and feel of that,
Yes,
but I felt it was cut really weird.
but it's super contrasty and
Yes.
super, and maybe it's just the way that it was cut that makes it even worse. But like even when they get really close, it gets really dark, and it's just, I don't know, it
That's-
just feels very weird to me.
That's why I feel that they blew up the image so they could do more of a close up or a
Oh,
you
sure.
know, like maybe
So-
they just had a mid close up and they wanted a closer
Closer one, yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean there are moments even like when they're playing poker and stuff where they have a lot of like darker backgrounds, like maybe some over contrasty, over saturation that's happening with just the poker players in the front. That doesn't bother me as much as like it just felt like there were some weird shots, and maybe it is the cutting, maybe it's something with that, but it just, maybe I should, felt very amateur in some of those places, maybe. So, sorry, Kyle, I
Oh, you're good.
jump in.
So speaking of the atmosphere and Rounders, it put me in mind of, as someone who played a lot of cards around that time, poker is a nighttime activity. And I think the movie did a great job capturing that. The nighttime is dark and gritty and grimy, but it feels alive. And then when you see people during the day, it seems sort of sterile and washed out and blue and boring. And I took that as like a stylistic choice to show that, the character felt more alive and connected with the world when he was playing cards. Even in these dingy, underlit places, people are dressed colorfully, they're acting colorfully, they are playing with colorful chips. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to show that this is where the life is. And then when you do see him during the day driving the truck or going to law school, everything seems very blue and washed out and
bland.
more uninteresting and bland, because it's
Yep.
not the life he wants to be in.
It's the
Where at
Matrix
night
effect.
it's like, at night it's exciting, right? And even though things are dark and grimy, there's splashes of color and movement and things that make it feel more alive. So that's how I took it from a stylistic point of view.
Yeah,
can
and
buy-
that's
I can-
that's why I like the atmosphere.
But I
Yeah,
can
I-
I can
I-
buy that. I can buy that to a like there's a way to stylistically pull that across without completely underexposing your footage or making it so it's even difficult to see your actors when you're not intending that. Like,
Yeah, and
I-
I don't know how much of that is someone else is doing, the editors doing,
Right.
What budget they were working under, anything like that. But yeah, that all does fall of, at the feet of the director to some extent. So I get what you're saying, but I think that was the intention, at least, even if the execution wasn't as good.
Sure.
Molly's Game, for a movie that could be very boring, like just telling about this game and the plot around it, is very bright. There's a lot of camera movement, like we talked about, the editing being sort of rapid fire. I guess you shouldn't say there's a lot of camera movement. There's interesting shot choices and a lot of close-ups, which I think helps when your actors are as attractive as Idris Elba and Jessica Chastain. I just feel like it was very proficiently done, to keep the momentum and the movement and the energy you get from the Sorkin dialogue. I think the editing helps play into that by you don't linger, you keep on things, and when you do linger, it's for an emotional reason. It's not just not knowing when to cut. It's intentional. So I think, especially knowing he's a first time director, although he is such a Hollywood vet and has been around so many like great situations, great film sets and things like that, and I'm sure he has a lot of friends who are actors. So I would assume that he had a pretty good handle on a lot of things and had a above most other first time directors. But I think he did a great job, keeping energy, pace, and injecting life into basically what is a walk and talk without the walking. It's a lot of sit and talk, but it's interesting in a Ocean's 11 sort of way where you're getting the exposition while seeing the things happen. It's just not people robbing a bank. It's someone running a underground poker game. I think they did a great job with that, and yeah, I guess I kind of ran out of steam there at the end, but that's okay.
I think that it's interesting when you were talking about how it's kind of the street scenes when he's delivering are kind of dry and drab and lacking in color. Because when he comes home for the first time, the apartment is very bright and there's lots of colors and everything else. They could have easily continued that street aesthetic into the apartment, but there's obviously some life, and it's one of the places that he likes to be is with her and in that apartment that somehow they fucking afford. And it's I just by you saying that, I remember that about the film last night, that it was that apartment kind of shares that same colorful aesthetic that they do at night.
It's the Matrix effect before the Matrix. Where
Right.
the Matrix
Yeah.
is green and the real world is not, and they're building that contrast through contrast and saturation and colors and themed visuals, not just the actors doing their job. And to Kyle's point, I believe that is a stylistic choice by the director. I mean, that's not accidental. Like, somebody did that.
Another thing with like shot choices, color choices, I think when they show Molly evolving in the game, things get cleaner, brighter, fancier as the stakes go up. But when you see her, doing drugs and being strung out and things like that, it's very private and close and not as well lit. They do add some life to that and some differentiation between the glamour and the downside of what she's doing.
I would also say that the Molly's game shots of the actual poker, unless it was a couple of the heads up or when she was actually deciphering what was actually going on, either for the audience or just in general, most of the poker playing was moving shots around the table. They would do cut-ins of like card dealings or a cigar or chips or whatever, and so it kept the motion of the game playing. Whereas Rounders, in comparison, was very much, when they were playing poker, it was shots of 4 or 5 people playing cards. So there's quite a bit of a difference there. Of we were telling a story about keeping it exciting for something that could be really boring. I think keeping that motion and that fluidness while they're playing cards really added to some of that excitement and pushing forward of, ooh, this is kind of a neat thing. And then the game would end and everything was like, that 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock time when everyone's like chilling out, the lights come on in the bar, everybody's got to go home, and then the camera now is no longer moving. So I thought that was an interesting choice, similarly to what we're talking about with Rounders with Molly's game. So
Yeah, and in Rounders, like, that's very much what a real hand of cards is like. It's a lot of sitting and staring
yes, it
and
really
thinking,
is.
which is boring to an observer. Molly's game is very slick about it. Rounders was much more realistic. It's a
Yes.
lot of
True.
patter at the table and looking at your cards and trying to do the math and read your opponent. Like, it's interesting.
I maybe that's the good way to say it, Kyle, is that Rounders definitely shows a more realistic view of how poker is. There's a lot of waiting, a lot of just sitting there. And Molly's
It
game
makes me
kind of
think
makes it
of
glamorous.
right. It makes me well. Granted, the people in Molly's game are generally hedge fund managers,
Right.
well-known actors. Like
Right.
they're much more glamorous.
They are glamorous.
Than guys who are grinding out their rent by, taking 3-6 tables down at like a local shithole casino. But it made me think of when they talk about Kanish being a grinder, like he's just grinding out rent by taking small hands and stuff, but he hasn't had to work a job in 15 years.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, that is a job though. Sitting there all day playing cards is a job.
Just to make $300 so you can, eat.
Right. So you can eat tonight. Yeah. I mean, I guess it beats dealing with a shitty boss. You can kind of make your own hours and stuff, but it is a grind.
Unless you don't
It's
win, and
interesting.
then that really shitty.
Yeah.
Hey, gentlemen, we're a bit over on this round, but didn't want to disturb any good discussion. Let's get to the votes. Tom.
Molly's game.
Okay, Kyle.
I really liked the directing in Molly's game, but I think Mike's discussion turned me on to the stylistic choices I noticed in Rounders. So I'm going to give this one to Rounders.
Okay. Andrew?
Molly's game.
And Mike? You're welcome to vote twice if you like.
Oh, thank you.
Wait.
This one's difficult because I like both of these movies for separate things. I'm going to have to give it to Rounders because of the atmosphere. I just like the atmosphere better. And I'm sorry, Aaron. I apologize.
He will forgive you.
Somebody's not getting paid.
Okay, so Rounders director. First of all, I didn't have a lot of trivia on John Dahl, the director of Rounders, but he has directed an episode of the new TV series Poker Face, which is just kind of coincidental in name. It's not a show about gambling, but it does in a way involve playing the person and not the hand. They're reading people in this. So I don't know. That's kind of trivia I made up. And then for Molly's game, thank you, because I couldn't find much else, honestly. Molly's game, as we mentioned before, was Sorkin's directing debut. He says, I wrote Molly's game not at all with the intention of directing it. But when I write something, I want the best possible director to direct it. And I don't know how you want to take that, but he was eventually asked by asked by the producers to direct it, and he thought about it and decided to go ahead and do it. So,
and that of course is me.
Yes, right. The best director would be me. And I guess I don't know. You guys kind of maybe hit on it a little bit. Like, what do you feel? I felt like the pacing of Molly's game at times was a little bit too frenetic. It was too fast sometimes. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I mean, I know we want to get into the story, we want to make it exciting, but at times I had a hard time keeping up. I'm like, what the hell is going on? There's like so much happening, really, really fast. I don't know what you guys thought of that the pacing of it.
I guess
I
it's
like the
just,
quick pacing.
I
I
do
mean,
too.
you
like to
got a
see this
lot of
break.
information in that 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, they did jam
I
pack
dig
it.
it.
I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine if they went slower, it would have been like 3 hours long.
I dig it.
All right, just thoughts. I thought at times it was a little. My old brain can't keep up anymore.
And I mean,
So
I guess, I mean, I know I wrote the movie, but I guess I'll direct it if you're gonna make me.
yeah.
I want the best director.
Yeah, it's hard to
I
know.
want the
I
best
don't think he
director,
meant it
so
that way, but who knows? Okay, well let's move on to the river, the final round overall.
I'm
Kyle,
not
kick it off.
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure there's much else that can be said about these movies, but I'm gonna give it a try. Um, we often talk about the music and stuff during these times. I don't remember a lot of the music from Molly's Game. Maybe that's just me not paying too much attention, but I do
Nope,
remember.
not just you, sir.
Okay. I do remember the music from Rounders seeming very sinister at points, almost like I was playing tense parts of a video game. Like it was that kind of string, like everything was dangerous. It was kind of didn't fit when he's driving around in a truck delivering cookies. But I think also here we talk a little bit about can talk about the narration and the telling versus showing. I think these movies, the cardinal rule is, show don't tell. But sometimes you have to tell, or it's interesting to tell and show at the same time, which I think these movies do a pretty good job of. And I think that's kind of a valid use and not a crutch. Or it disguises the crutch of narration a little better. It makes it much more interesting by giving the audience something to look at rather than just having an expedition dump or exposition dump, not an expedition dump. That would be what Dave Matthews did over a river in some
Yes,
city.
correct. Expedition Dump. That's the name of their
Right.
new album too.
Oh, wow. Man, I hope they do that Crash Into Me song. I hope they re-release that or whatever.
Hey,
Marching.
marching.
Oh my God, Dave Matthews?
Yeah, it's me.
Oh my God, Eddie Vedder?
Well,
They're the same guy. No one's ever seen them in the same room at the same time. Let's talk about the main conceits of these movies, which is poker playing. Rounders does a very good job of displaying like the realities of playing poker and making a mistake by thinking you have the best hand and not realizing your opponent can have you beat. The one thing I will say is, for as good and as feared of a player as Teddy KGB is, having that obvious of a tell is a sin. Mike should have spotted that immediately. That is an enormous tell.
I'm not good
And
at seeing them. Sorry.
yeah, right. I meant Mike Damon. He should have definitely spotted that way sooner. I don't know what it is about Matt Damon wearing frumpy sweaters in the 90s. That was like a thing he did. Ed Norton seems to love leather jackets. Ed Norton seems like a character out of an Ocean's movie who did make the cut. It's interesting. I think the casting in these movies is pretty spot on. I don't think Gretchen Mol has anything to do, which is unfortunate because she's a great actress. Martin Landau, I don't know much about Martin Landau, like outside of Ready to Rumble, which is the greatest WCW wrestling movie ever produced, because it's the only one. But yeah, well, it is. I mean, it's no Marine 6, but
True.
yeah. I thought the atmosphere and the way it captured the country's it fit right into the zeitgeist as the country was becoming obsessed with No Limit Texas
Yeah.
Hold'em, which now when we look back is such a brief flash in the history of America, because now nobody gives a shit about poker again. It was like relevant for like 5 years and everyone's like, what are we doing watching a bunch of guys play cards?
Well, you
But
guys
it
ever
was,
want to play cards? I got a bunch of chips downstairs that are
Yeah.
collecting dust.
I
That
love
there it
playing
is.
cards. But
Really?
we
Is
have
that
to.
is that true about poker? Like
Yeah, well,
when I get together with my mom and my brothers, that's like 70% of our time is
Yeah,
just
you guys play
the
poker.
six of us. We play poker pretty much
Nice.
the entire time we're together.
All right.
Wow.
Tom, who has the worst tell? Who has the worst tell in
Who
the
has the
family?
worst tell?
Yeah. Who do you have
Um,
figured out?
I don't know. Probably my youngest brother, but I think he listens, so I'm not going to tell you what it is.
We,
But
I
they
mean,
say,
we,
Tom, if you can't spot the sucker in your first half hour at the table, you are the sucker.
Well, we have a bowl with candy in it, and there's usually suckers in there. So
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I
you are
mean,
what you eat.
there's a group of us that still, pretty frequently in the summertime, especially we will play, especially on his birthday. He has a big poker game,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and that is
I love playing poker. I don't get a chance to do it very much, but I mean, I've done the Malcolm Gladwell. I've spent 10,000 hours playing poker in my life, like without a doubt, probably before I was 21. But I think that it hits this such a weird thing of the rise of No Limit Texas Hold'em, which is really what this movie is about, is that ability to win or lose everything you have in one hand of cards. It coincides with the rise of that on, ESPN showing the World Series of Poker all the time. And then it was like a brief flash, and now it's kind of gone from the public consciousness. It's nowhere near as popular as it was. But I remember, books being published and movies being made, and it was on constantly, and online betting services came up where you could play cards. Like
that
it was in the world for a while.
I think that's where you got your wave, right? Because you got people playing, and then online poker started happening, and I think that took it to the next level. And
Yeah, online
it
was
just
a big part of it.
it was huge when people could start doing it online, and
Right.
that was crazy. But Kyle, I would still say, and I think there are a lot of other people that agree, that Rounders is the quintessential, poker movie. It is a, it's one of a kind. It's the one that kind of was in that very tip of that boom, of the Texas Hold'em boom, and it drove a lot of people like, oh, I can play poker. So I mean,
right? Everybody thought, I'm
Rounders.
go
I
make
saw
it big.
Rounders. I can
Yeah.
go play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, it was very much our go-to movie. Us group of gamblers, like we watched Rounders, we could quote it all the time. I was watching it with Heather and freaking her out because I was reciting the movie from memory. Like, this is what Teddy KGB is going to say next. This is what's going to happen next. Like, I just know the movie back to front because I've watched it so many times.
Okay, so great. So I want you to explain something to me. What the hell happens in the last hand? So I know Matt Damon's got 8-9, and
Yeah,
he flops a straight.
Yep.
Yes,
I'm sorry. There's no tension in that scene. I'm watching it, and I'm just like, I have no idea what Teddy KGB has, but I mean, as far as I can tell, he flopped nuts. So then where's the tension in the scene?
He had already figured it out. That was part of it.
And I'm just
he
like,
flopped the
yeah.
nuts, and it mirrors the ending of the World Series of Poker they watched,
Yes.
where Johnny Chen flopped it and beat Eric Seidel at the final hand. But he flops the nuts, and it's like him outplaying Teddy KGB the exact way Teddy played him in the first game. The problem is we never see Malkovich's whole cards, so we don't know if he's on a flush draw, if he has 3 of a kind on the flop and he doesn't hit the boat or something like that.
Right.
But he does hit the nut straight there. I don't think that means, though, I'd have to rewatch it. I don't know if that means he can't lose.
I just sorry. While you were talking, I pulled it up and I was watching it again, and he couldn't lose, and so I'm just like, I don't know.
I think part of that maybe that tension that you're missing though is, he actually had calculated. He had already figured it out. He knew he was going to win. He knew it didn't matter what Teddy had or not, because he knew he had a better hand based on everything else. And I think that was part of the gotcha that he
Yeah,
got into his mode, and he was like, "No, I figured it out. I know you're not going to beat me."
I think it's a mirror of Teddy probably gets a good hand, but doesn't take into account that the other player could have the nuts right off the flop, right?
Right.
So
That's
because
insane. I'm not even a good
no,
poker player, and I
yeah,
spotted that right away. Like I
yeah,
just, I don't know.
yeah.
I
3
I
cards.
played a lot of poker, and I'm watching it, and I was like, there's no tension in this scene. I'm just like,
The only thing that makes it a little more tense, I guess, is that it's gut shot, right? He has 2 middle cards under in his hand, which is
Right.
he can't hit both sides of the straight, which makes it less likely. When you play heads up, the cards people get
Are
so varied in quality
Yep.
because
Right.
literally like 9, 10, 11, 12 cards come out of the deck or something like that. So 40 cards.
yeah. Heads up
So
is
it's
much
insane.
it's heads up is much harder to
It's
build
a
all
very
of your
hand
cricket.
wavy.
Yes.
Very hand wavy, like we're gonna show you the ultimate drama like hand, but it's really not because he doesn't hit it on the river to beat him, which that would have been unsatisfying because he's trying to learn that he has skill at this game and can identify not make the same mistake he made the first time.
Correct.
But yeah, it does make Teddy KGB look a little dumb. Although I would argue that him giving up his very obvious tell gave that away
Yep.
a little bit earlier. Like, don't have food at the table. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity for you to give away
Well,
information.
and not only that, but how often was he like, he would listen to the Oreo, and I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, how long have you been doing that for?
I know. Yeah. He should be broke by now. Good
Yes.
poker players would have figured that out and cleaned him out. Yeah. But it just has to work for the movie,
Yeah.
you know, and that's one of the
and
you
see,
can
and that's the
consider that
thing.
a
I feel like it didn't. So I think that was one of like, I enjoyed the movie up to that point, and then it got to the end because, and maybe I'm used to just watch Molly's game. I watch Rounders, and there's all these really great poker stories. Mike is not walking away from that table with a really great poker story. He's like, all right, so I'm playing Teddy KGB, and I flop it straight. Yeah, what happens next?
I
I
fought
won.
this straight.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what happens next.
what's
drop out of
the
high
best
school,
hand? What's the best
go to
hand
Las
that Teddy
Vegas.
could have had? 3 of a kind. It was over.
Yeah, 3 of a kind.
and
I mean, I suppose with that few cards, it's possible he also has a gut shot straight, but that's ridiculously unlikely.
Yeah,
and
that they have the same hand, and then but that's what an unsatisfying end to the movie where they split the pot.
right. But at the same time, you know, he's also slow playing the pot out to get him to bet
he's
into it,
trying to
and maybe
outplay
that's
it,
where
right.
that tension that they were trying to build comes from.
Yeah,
right.
he's
But
trying to
but that's the scene where Teddy's like splashing the pot. Like,
Yeah.
there's not even any tension of those. Just like, I wonder if I can like goad him into doing it. Teddy's being a like arrogant prick, and it's like he doesn't even need to. He just has to look at him, and he's going to throw his chips in. I don't know. I just felt like it could have been a better poker story.
I think you brought up a good point. What if the board comes that could give Teddy a possible flush or a boat, and that is when Mike reads his tell to know that he doesn't have it.
Right.
That would have been maybe a more satisfying ending because that's a skill play watching the player as opposed to flopping an unbeatable hand.
And it would have added more tension to that.
Right, because then you're waiting to the end.
Yeah,
right.
because you don't the risk all of a sudden the risk becomes higher for that game that they're playing. You know,
he can be saying things like he may have a good hand, but he doesn't have it yet.
Right.
But I've got to get in and try to bully him off so he can't beat me. And then he's got to go like, okay, so there's like a 1 in 100 chance he has a boat or a flush or whatever.
Right. And he doesn't want
to watches him with the Oreos and he figures out his tell that he doesn't have it and he's bluffing. And that's when he goes all in, or he calls his all in and wins.
Yep. And you can't bully him too much so he doesn't bet or fold out before you push him to get all in.
Right, because you flopped a monster hand.
Right.
So, and Teddy's got like
but yes,
2 outs in the whole deck. So yeah, that'd have been maybe that's more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll tell you too, and it doesn't pertain to these movies at all, but like everyone has like a gambling story, and they're boring. I'm sorry. I think gambling stories are the most boring thing you can talk about. Just like, so I'm at the casino. I'm like, you already lost me. I don't give a shit what the machines are doing or what the cards are doing. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't. Just like gambling stories, getting pulled over by the cops, and stories about being in the hospital. I just like. I don't really. Everyone's got stories like that. So.
Yep.
Okay, so real
Unless
quick.
it's life or death.
Cinesmac
quick,
is
I
now
was-
called Heads Up. It is a poker poker
It's all the best
podcast.
poker
Don't
stories.
And
share
we're
your
just
poker
gonna
stories.
just real quick, I was at the casino and I got hurt.
Oh,
And on the way to the hospital, I got pulled
I'm in.
over by the police.
I'm in. What a great story.
Mute. Muting Mike. Muting Mike. Bye, Mike.
So I finally got to the hospital.
Hey, Tom, I
Mikey's
haven't.
game.
And it
I
turns
haven't-
out my doctor played poker.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And
Okay,
that's how
so-
I won $25 while they were sewing my finger back together.
So I bitch about this is how the podcast goes. I bitch about something and then you guys lean into it. Oh my god, I
You
can't
know
believe
that by now.
it took 16 years to figure out your
You
tell.
found our tell.
Better tell. I actually have a
If-
poker
if-
story that
if anyone
involves me
says-
being underage, pulled over by the cops, having to go to driving school, hitting a jackpot, and then breaking my car on the way home, which actually. So
I guess
there's
Tom.
my interesting poker.
I guess
story.
Tom.
I
we're
appreciate you
just
for not working. I appreciate you not working in an auger.
we're just drilling this story
did get
home, aren't we?
screwed. I did get screwed.
Gabe, get control of your episode.
Yeah, Jesus. I really need to get in control of this.
This shit wouldn't happen
All right,
if Mike was here.
Yeah. Jeez. So, do you guys have anything actually relevant to
Relevant.
contribute to this
I
round?
want to say that I agree with Kyle on the narration.
Thank you.
I really like the
Aw.
narration, both of these films. And
That's sweet.
I actually am a fan of when there's narration in films.
If
At
done
least
right.
I like
Oh.
hearing if it's done right.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah,
Put his
sometimes
hand
it
down
can
his
be a
pants as
crutch.
he listened to
Well-
Mike
Yes.
agree to him.
Well, because sometimes they put words on the screen and then there's a narrator reading what is on the
Right,
screen. Like
right.
it's like, okay, you just did this. Just show me this. This sounds
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
We know the difference between good narration and bad narration. When someone sits down and goes, "So you're telling me that at 12 o'clock today at the docks," someone that's like, Jesus Christ. Okay, so you have no ideas. But then this
At
at
the
least
docks.
is intercut with the action.
Right.
There's
So
going to
that
be a
feel-
means
load
yeah.
of augers coming in.
we got a shipment of
Yeah.
augers.
We got to ship it.
We're
We gotta
gonna
ship it
screw
to
the
Jimmy. Jimmy
screwers.
runs the casino. and
Jimmy
he's gonna
runs?
handle it.
The pit
Yeah.
boss with diarrhea?
So wait,
Yes.
so he's
Jimmy
running.
runs. He actually went to the hospital once.
Oh yeah, he had that old timey
Find out
diarrhea.
loud.
They thought he was gonna die.
So his bankroll does the auger
It should
store.
be-
This is
Yeah.
how he's keeping the auger store going. I like it.
You know,
Okay.
Tom. You know, Jimmy Runs had a brother. It was the last guy ever diagnosed with flopsy, which is like
my God.
like an old timey Victorian disease.
Jesus Christ. Is that why he was named Jimmy Runs?
No, Jimmy
No.
Runs had the diarrhea. Teddy Faints had flopsy,
Yes.
Christ.
and
Anyway,
then he got
All
his
right.
You've
mom,
never heard the story about
Typhoid
Teddy
Jones.
Faints?
Teddy Vogt is, yeah.
this
Teddy
is-
Faints was a police officer. He pulled over a lot of people,
Yeah,
including me.
but he'd fall asleep in his car, so people would just take off.
You want to hear this time about when
Oh
Teddy
my
Flops pulled me over?
Yeah, the guy with dropsy who he had narcolepsy, but everyone thought he was a necrophiliac. He fell asleep fucking a corpse.
Okay.
All right, Gabe.
Yeah, I think we need to move on, gentlemen.
You know, every
This-
show has a
this has gone
closer, and I think we've hit it.
Yeah, I think we've gone completely off the rails. We are no longer talking about these movies at all.
By the way, I want memes
But-
of Tom at a drive-through and the drive-through saying, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." And just
Sorkian.
Tom-
I think that's a term, right? It's
Yes,
kind of like
Sorkian
Shakespearean.
monologue.
So, yeah, Sorkian dialogue at the drive-through.
You just pulled a Sorkian.
Yeah.
Sorkin was much better in the original Klingon.
Yes, yes.
That's a deep ref. That's a deep cut.
All right, gentlemen. I think We
Yeah.
have to vote here
Yes.
somewhere
Yes, this is
along the
where we
line?
vote.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's vote then. So let's start with Kyle.
I am voting from the heart, not from the head. I am voting for Rounders.
Okay. And Andrew?
Molly's Game.
Mike.
Oh man, I love the indie feel of Rounders. Like that's the reason why I started loving movies and wanting to make movies is movies like Rounders. But I want to be like, I want to be able to make movies like Aaron Sorkin does with Molly's Game.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult. But I think I'm gonna give it to Rounders.
Ooh.
Okay, Rounders. Okay. And finally, we've got Tom.
Molly's Game.
Love you,
Molly's
Tom.
Game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you may remember that we were talking about these two movies, and I have a little bit of trivia
We were.
related to these two. Yes, I know we got a little sidetracked, but
Tommy
there was a side game going on somewhere, so I've got a little trivia about
It was
these.
a side game.
It says, despite a lukewarm reception from mainstream critics at the time of its release, Rounders became a hit with professional poker players. Many praised its authentic representation of the game and underground poker culture. Poker legend Phil Hellmuth, I don't know if I said that properly. Did I say that right? Hellmuth even referred to it as the best poker movie ever made. Also, I thought this was funny. Poker pro Chris Ferguson shared this joke on the DVD commentary track. What's the difference between a large cheese pizza and a poker player?
I know the answer to this.
Okay, go ahead.
A large cheese pizza can feed a family of 4.
That's correct. Yeah. I thought that was actually kind of funny. And they kind of get at that a little bit in the, in Rounders as well. And then for Molly's Game, according to Molly Bloom, A-listers including Tobey Maguire, who we mentioned earlier, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Ben Affleck frequented her games. Referred to as Player X, played by Michael Cera in the movie, in Molly's Game, Maguire made quite an impression, though not in the most charming of ways, allegedly behaving in demeaning and borderline abusive ways. One occasion saw the actor offer Bloom $1,000 to bark like a seal, and he later taunted her over the phone after she lost control of her lucrative Los Angeles-based game, which we saw represented in the movie itself. So, yeah. All right. So I think this is the point where we start to tabulate the votes. We'll get the monkey on it and try to tabulate these votes. And in the meantime, let's do some recommendations. Let's start with Andrew.
Oh crap! I gotta go first.
You don't have to. You want me to wait?
No, that's fine. I'll go
We
first.
we can go. Tom wants to. Tom's pointing at himself. Tom wants to do his recommendation.
Ready.
I got mine. I was ready before
Okay.
it even happened.
All
It's
right.
funny. Mike and I actually chatted a little bit about this movie. It's relatively new. It's also based on a true story. It's also a movie about luck that ended up becoming about skill. I would say probably, Maisie Williams is in it, Walter Goggins is in it, Peter Walter Hausen is in it. It's a very interesting true story, and it's one that I was actually around, like alive for when this actually happened. And I did a lot of research, and it just it was really exciting when I found out that they were actually making a movie about this and everything. Yep, see, there's the text. And that's The Luckiest Man in America. And it is about the guy that figured out the patterns for pressure luck. and how he won more money than anyone ever on the game show, and actually basically shut the game show down for quite a few years. It's really fun. It is based on the true story. There is a lot of Hollywoodness to it to make it a little more exciting, but very, very good. A lot of fun to watch. And if you don't know the true story, the episodes are out on YouTube for you to watch. But really good, really, really good.
And I'll add to that. There is a great podcast series called World's Greatest Con.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he does an episode or two about the Press Your Luck scandal, and it is fascinating.
Yep.
Absolutely fascinating.
Great, thank you, Andrew. And that is a fascinating story. I had seen some stuff about it even before the movie. And,
Sure.
Yeah, it's a very, very fascinating story. Okay, so let's go with Mike.
Okay. So Kyle talks about how Rounders made he and his friends degenerate gamblers. I'm going to talk about a movie that made my friends and I degenerate pool players. This movie was watched a lot. I was never really that good at pool, but a couple of my friends actually were. They could pull off shots that just astounded me. Of course, anyone that lives in Des Moines used to know of a place called Loco Joe's. It was a nickel arcade, but they also had a ton of pool tables. And right around the same time, the late 90s, early 2000s, when poker was taking off, pool playing was kind of taking off as well, at least in my circles. This movie is directed by Martin Scorsese, stars Paul Newman, Tom Cruise, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantino is Color of Money. We watched it like every day. And then we would go to the pool hall. I would lose a couple games and then just watch my friends run some tables. But it did the same thing to us what Rounders probably did to quite a few other people.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with that recommendation for sure. That's a great movie, and there's some really great shots, so to speak.
There are, yeah, and I should mention John Turturro's in that as well.
Oh, is he? Yeah, I always like seeing John Turturro. Obviously, I saw him just recently. Most recently in Severance, and I love him and Christopher Walken together in that they just have such chemistry. But anyway, yeah, it's always good to see John Turturro for sure. So okay, well, let's go with Tom.
All right, so I'm gonna recommend my favorite poker movie, 1994, Richard Donner, and stars Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner, and that's Maverick. I think it's I love it. I think it's a really funny movie. I think everybody in it's the line deliveries are
so good.
It's thoroughly entertaining. It has a poker scene at the end that actually has some tension, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And it's a very funny movie, and it holds up really well. Yeah, so I would recommend.
And it has one of the best cameos ever in it.
Oh yeah, and Graham Greene's in it. So that's actually the connection I was using was Graham Greene as in Maverick, and I think there's some cards in there too. But yeah, mainly Graham Greene. I was doing another Graham Greene movie, so
it's a good.
Who's that cameo you were talking about?
It's a good Western.
Danny Glover.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Danny Glover. Yeah.
It's a good.
I love
when he pulls down his mask and they both look at each other and you hear the little Lethal Weapon tune play in the background. Yeah, it's great.
It's a good Western even like.
It is, and I think
totally.
Having James Gardner in there, I thought was just genius casting. From the original Maverick TV show.
It's been a long time. That was a good
that's
movie.
a fun movie.
Yeah,
we watch it here a lot. The kids really like it. It's actually the only Western they'll let me watch.
Oh,
so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Another great recommendation. And now for Kyle.
You guys gave such good recommendations. I'm actually going to change mine. I'm I'm going to recommend a movie that is not very good, but I watched it so many times because I loved the premise of it and the way it was done. And it's um it's gambling and Las Vegas very much influenced. Stars Nick Cage and nobody else that I know. And it is a Rashomon like tale told from different perspectives during different times. That is a movie called Snake Eyes. And I have not watched it in a long time, but I remember being fascinated by the narrative structure of that movie because I had not seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys really got me thinking about like what gambling in Vegas like movies did I really like, and I owned that on DVD many a moon ago. But yeah, Snake Eyes, check it out. It's probably awful.
Wasn't that De Palma? Was that De
Yeah.
Palma?
Yeah, it might be
Yeah.
a Brian De Palma film.
Yeah.
Brian De Palma. Yeah, it's got Gary Sinise in it.
Yes.
Yeah, there you
He's
go.
a
That's
little
right.
bit out of
I know
place.
the actor who plays the boxer. I've seen him in a lot of things, but I don't know his name. But yeah, it's interesting film. A really interesting narrative structure.
Cool.
Good choice.
Yeah, good recommendation. Well, I guess that leaves me with my recommendation, which is probably going to fall flat based on your guys' recommendations, which are all really good. But I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned the TV show Poker Face.
Mhm.
And actually, I haven't started the second season yet, but I watched the first season and really enjoyed it quite a bit. And it's basically about a woman who can read a person and read their faces and figure out if they're lying or not. And she gets herself into a bunch of trouble by, for some reason, just brazenly calling them out on their lies. And the Natasha Lyonne, who's the main character, plays the main character. She has a very Columbo style kind of delivery to her lines and that kind of thing, and it's reminiscent of Peter Falk and Columbo. And it was actually very enjoyable. And each episode is like it's kind of a different mystery that she solves, but then there's this kind of through story where she's in trouble with somebody and they're seeking her out, and she keeps moving around the country to different places. And it's actually, I found it quite enjoyable. It was created by Ryan Johnson, who did what's Looper and that kind of stuff. Directed one of the Star Wars movies. Yeah. So I would recommend Poker Face.
And she's the actress from American Pie for those younger.
She is.
For those viewers that don't know who that is. I'm surprised no one mentioned National Lampoon's Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one too.
That's a good one,
God. The best part of that movie is when they go to that really bad casino.
No, yeah. Guess
They're guessing, aren't they
what number
guessing
it
like
was.
how many
Number?
fingers they're holding up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bread
Okay,
pudding is
well,
extra runny tonight.
I'm surprised it didn't bring out what is that game they play at the end? Oh shoot. With the numbers. I can never remember the name of it.
Not Plinko.
No.
I know what you're talking about. I won
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
Oh, Kino.
Kino, thank
Kino,
you.
there you go.
Yep.
The money
I'm
is
surprised that
mine.
didn't
Yeah, we
make
should,
Kino
yeah.
make everything amazing because of that movie.
That was part of the big Kino boom in America.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I want to
Kyle-
play
Kyle was
Kino.
embroiled in a
I was a
in a,
degenerate
yeah,
Kino
underground
player.
Kino.
Watching numbers light up on a board.
They were showing Kino on ESPN.
The World
Yeah,
Series
a
of
game
Kino.
no skill.
Yep.
Series of
Not luck, it's
Kino. Wassock. I'm gonna go watch the Wassock, guys.
Boston Ben's out again. He picked the wrong random numbers. This guy sucks the lottery.
Remember,
Okay, gentlemen. I think now's the time in the show when we poke the monkey and see which of these two films raked in the biggest stack of chips.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is
very good with that. I'm happy with that.
That's fair.
Yeah. So the final tally was 11-5 for Molly's game.
Oh, who got closest?
Who's closest?
Yeah, well, we need to talk about that because I don't know how we tally that. So 3 of you texted me and said that you predicted 10-6 for Molly's game, and then one of you predicted 13-3 for Molly's game.
So 3 of us were closer.
Yes, so I feel like the 3 of you were the closest. So do we split the pot?
Yeah.
Between 3 people?
I mean,
Is that how that
happens.
works?
Yeah.
Or do we
really didn't
do
make
rock,
much
paper,
money.
scissors? What's that?
Really didn't make much money.
Yeah,
Split
like
the
it. Yeah, when you split 0, it's still 0.
By the way, I like all the aces for the monkey.
Yes,
That's great.
For those of you who are watching us on, currently online, yes, the at the end the monkey usually points at the winning film, but they have 4 aces up. They have the winning hand pointing at the. Yes, it's very nice, very good.
It does.
All right, gentlemen. Anything else you want to add before we conclude tonight's game?
No, I think if you go and you watch Molly's game, you're like, oh, I want to watch other poker movies. Definitely check out Rounders. Definitely check out Maverick. Yeah, like Molly's game is great. And I think it is about poker. Like that's how she made her money, but it's more about a very interesting person, right? Like this.
Yeah.
She's a very strong-willed person. I mean, everything that she went through leading up is incredible to me.
And even her overcoming after she got arrested and everything.
The back. Well, but I mean also just the back issues, having that fixed, and then landing on her head, and then like she gets knocked down. She's like a Timex. She takes a lick and keeps on ticking. She is just an incredible person. I don't mean it in that sense, Kyle.
So it's funny. Sometimes there's lots of things we talk about with movies. And one of the things that people talk about is what's a movie that grabs you right away in the first 5 minutes. And I'm like, Molly's Game has one of the best opening 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it will it just grabs you and pulls you in. And it's
I think it's one of the best cold opens in a movie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it ends with that slap to the face. It's like, oh, it's excellent.
Yeah.
So much of a movie is getting people to buy in and stay in, and that's such a great way to be like to hook them right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And after you watch Molly's Game, go watch Rounders and just watch, late 90s indie film that is just full of character and has a certain texture to it, right?
Dude,
like it just has a look.
It's over. Let it go, Mike. It lost.
No, I'm just saying I enjoyed both of these movies.
I know.
A lot.
You're kind of doing the hard stuff on Rounders at the end here.
I was just going to say that if it weren't a true story, I feel like the whole skiing part of Molly's Game might seem like like it was a tack on. Like why is she a skier? If it wasn't a true story, it wouldn't really be relevant. But it definitely made the story more interesting, and they used that to kind of shore up her character and her strength and that kind of thing in those situations. But I almost recommended Casino Royale. It's a Bond movie, but there's a good portion of it where they play cards, and I think there's some pretty well done card playing scenes in that where they maybe get that tension that you guys were talking about earlier. Maybe
I watched The Card Counter with Oscar Isaac and Cincinnati Kid with Steve McQueen, and neither of them really rose to the level of Cinesmack recommendation. So
that says something.
Yeah, I think so. We have very high standards.
Right.
Yes, we do. All right, gentlemen, thank you.
Lampoon's Vegas Vacation.
Absolutely.
He plays war. He plays war.
I'd like to point out that we did not recommend that. So
we did not, but we do enjoy it.
It was a side game.
Yep.
It was. All right, gentlemen. Thank you for your input this evening. And listeners, we would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us to reach new listeners. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. I don't think I'll ever call it X. I think everybody still knows what Twitter is. And Facebook, just search for Cinesmack. So join us in July as we kind of go Mad Magazine, Spy versus Spy, Black Spy, White Spy, as we expose the espionage thrillers, Red Notice, and The Gray Man. For Mike, Andrew, Kyle, Tom, and myself, thank you for listening, and go catch a flick.
Oh my God, Johnny Runs and Tommy Flops are at my door. They want my money.
One of them needs your couch and the other needs your bathroom.
You got the nuts.
Hey, man, you got one of them toilet couches me and my brother can borrow?
Toilet couches. Okay.
Mm.
It's better than a
Don't,
couch
don't look
toilet.
it up.
Copyright Cinesmack.
Yeah.
That's right. Don't take my $1 million
Couches.com.
idea. It's a couch you can shit in.
Is it a toilet couch or is it a couch toilet?
Buddy, you tell me. You've got the money, you name it.
Well, I get to name it?
Yeah, I just want 10%. Inventor of the item gets 50% of every sale. And
Well,
then you can put my face in the toilet part.
The crapo
For no reason. It's not a sex thing.
The sit and shit?
Hey,
I like it. I like it.
that's why we keep you
I like
around, the fucking idea
Yeah.
guy right here.
Yeah. I
Does
like
it only come in brown?
I mean,
Yeah.
you can get it
ends up
in
in
white,
brown.
but it shows dirt.
And it always comes with plastic covers.
Oh
blow
God,
cup?
you know
Like a
your
blow
grandma's
cup?
gonna do that, and it's gonna
Yeah.
ruin it.
Yeah.
You can't cover it in plastic. I guess you could change.
I'm
the
gonna be
plastic
wide
stuff.
awake at 2 a.m. I'm gonna come up with a really good name for this couch.
You just did.
I
Don't
think
overthink it.
No,
The
I
sitting
think
shit's pretty good.
I think I could do something with sofa.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking
Bedspread.
Yeah.
Mm,
I'm
Come
your
up-
father. Trying to comprehend how much I love you would be like trying to visualize the size of the universe.
Oh,
Sir,
Jesus.
this is a Wendy's.
This is a Wendy's.
So you gotta use divan. You gotta somehow, or the Davenport.
Davenport.
Davenport, yeah.
The Davenport.
The
Cravenport.
Davenport.
Oh,
Davenport.
Davenport. I like Davenport.
Ooh. Nobody under the
That makes
age
you
of 40 would know what a Davenport is.
But it makes it sound like you're from Boston. Oh man, I'm tired and I got the runs. I need the Davenport.
Anytime a Davenport.
Gentlemen, I have put in our chat a photo of Kyle, myself, and a few of our friends playing poker in my
Where?
garage.
I don't see it.
It's in the Showtime text chat.
Oh, the don't reference on
No,
there?
no.
where?
Right
Yeah.
under the
not seeing it
beautiful poster that Tom made. I love that.
No, I don't see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Do I need to?
neither one of
I
you
feel
see
like
it?
I need to.
Anyone's?
No, I feel like
No.
I need to open up something that I'm not.
You
opening.
haven't.
Oh, open chat.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. Got it
Yep.
now. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, we was babies.
We were babies.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah, I still don't see the picture.
I'm not seeing your. I'm not
But
seeing your.
I
Picture, Mike.
remember the picture because I was there. But yeah.
All right, guys. I have to go.